In early January of 1914, Grand Duchess Olga Nikolaevna experienced an already anticipated heartbreak. Her beloved Pavel Voronov, married Countess Olga Konstantinovna Kleinmichel. The entire imperial family is present at their wedding at Feodorovsky Cathedral, including the Grand Duchess herself. A period of sadness, emptiness, and quiet introspection follows for Olga. Her life becomes peaceful, but also lonesome. But her romantic nature yearns for love, and she turns to another officer, Shurik, Alexander Shvedov, who is referred to as AKSHV in her diary, Alexander Konstantinovich Shvedov. As usual, in early spring, the family travels to the Crimea. Each day they have a late breakfast with various officers from the imperial yacht as guests. In early April, there's the first mention in Olga's diary of a young officer named Molokhovets, quote, a very tall and dear midshipman, end quote. Born in 1890, Molokhovets is 5 years Olga's senior. He was appointed junior duty officer on the Standart at the end of 1913, around the time Olga was feeling tormented by her beloved S's engagement. During the month of April 1914, Molokhovets is regularly invited to the imperial family's breakfasts, tennis games, walks. He is often seen in the family's private photos. Olga Nikolaevna captions his name casually in her 1914 photo albums. There's nothing there to indicate that Molokhovets has become a new favorite of the eldest Grand Duchess. About a month later, in May 1914, everything changes. Olga starts to emphasize her meetings with him in her diary. Quote, "Stop by the chapel, saw Molokhovets and the others," end quote, she writes on 2nd May 1914. By her father's birthday on 6th May, Old Style, she accentuates the young officer, quote, "Molokhovets with our officers of the convoy." The next day, she mentions Molebin with the parade, Molokhovets with our convoy, and made chains and worked with Molokhovets, Taube, and Sashka. That evening, Olga, quote, "sat with Molokhovets. He's such a darling, cozy, and terribly nice," end quote. The next day at breakfast, Olga notices that Vladimir has such a dear, cozy face. The preparation and holding of the Yalta charity bazaar brings the young people closer together. Olga Nikolaevna is clearly interested in the young officer and tries to spend more time with her new friend. From Olga's 1914 diary. 8 May. In the afternoon, we prepared things for the bazaar with NP, Molokhovets, and Kublitsky. Later, we pasted photographs for the bazaar, and Molokhovets helped me. He's such a darling. Tea with them, too. 11 May, day of the bazaar. Margarita Hitrova was with us and our officers. Molokhovets helped me the most. He's such a darling. In the evening, back on the imperial yacht, she added. Mama sat with NP while we two sat upstairs in the deck house with Molokhovets and Rodionov. Awfully cozy, merry, nice. Left at 11:40. Such a pity. Vladimir Molokhovets himself reminisced in 1914. Quote, "Before the opening of the bazaar, the weather was bad, and instead of a walk, the Empress and the children stayed in the palace, preparing things for the bazaar. Everyone was busy pasting the Empress's photographs into albums to be sold. I glued them in too. A few minutes later, when I had already completed my album, the Empress took them all to see how they had turned out. Always thorough and tidy in everything, she noticed that in one album there were 2 pages stuck together and asked in surprise who had done that. To my regret, I saw that it was an album I had worked on. As soon as I wanted to say this, the Grand Duchess Tatyana Nikolaevna, apparently realizing what was the matter and not letting me open my mouth, quickly answered that she had done it. Of course, I was not in trouble because of white pages in an album getting stuck together, but I was deeply moved by the desire of the Grand Duchess to help me in my awkwardness. On 12 May 1914, Molokhovets had breakfast with them and they later played tennis. Quote, Darling Molokhovets was there. 14 May, after breakfast, Olga writes, I played one set with Molokhovets against A and Taube. We won, and won I with Taube against A and Molokhovets. Tea in the garden. I sat with Molokhovets. He's terribly sweet. Much like a year earlier, when Olga looked through a field glass searching for her beloved S, she now did the same to look at her new love interest. Quote, looked through a field glass at the boat training, saw Molokhovets. 17 May, ran into darling Molokhovets. 18 May, tiresome, did not see Molokhovets. The next day, 19 May 1914, was a better day than yesterday for Olga. Went to the farm. There Mama climbed into the carriage and we four with Papa, NP, Molokhovets, Rodionov, and Hippolyte walked. Showed the house on the Reklik and walked up farther. Awfully nice. Coffee and ate yogurt at the farm. Walked and sat with Molokhovets, such awfully dear darling. On 25 May, Molokhovets is invited to play tennis again. Quote, sat together, very nice. 26 May, we four, with Papa, drove to the forestry. There we met our officers, sat into different motors, and went to Kosmodemyansk. A and I with Molokhovets and Kozhevnikov. There they visited the monastery, took a walk around, had breakfast at the cottage, and saw the animals at the sanctuary. Quote, terribly, terribly nice. So happy, especially because I spent all day with Molokhovets. End quote. On 30 May, Molokhovets had breakfast with the imperial family. In the evening, Olga wrote, stood and talked with the officers, NP, darling Molokhovets, and many others. The next day, on June 1st, before departure from Livadia, in the evening, Olga sits with Molokhovets, not realizing that she will never see Livadia again. Shortly, the yacht will head to Romania to visit their royal family and possibly make a dynastic match for Olga with the heir to the Romanian throne, Prince Carol. After meeting the prince, Olga doesn't mention him in her diary, but does comment that Molokhovets stood on guard. Being indifferent to the prince of the blood as a potential husband, Olga is relieved when she and her family sail off from Romania. Quote, at 11 left to sea, such happiness, sat with darling Molokhovets in telegraph cabin, terribly nice. On 2nd June, Olga was with Molokhovets almost the entire morning, so nice. That evening, the last on the yacht, Olga tried to spend a lot of time with Molokhovets. He's so dear. Soon it was time to say goodbye. Quote, we went into the cabin, sat by Russian tradition anywhere. Papa walked around to the sailor squad, and we said goodbye and left. It's disgusting to have to leave them all. Terribly sad without them and darling Molokhovets. I fell in love with him. May the Lord save them. On 7 June, Olga writes, "Today, Molokhovets is 24 years old. May the Lord save him. The yacht arrived at Malta." Olga returns to the yacht and sees her darling Molokhovets one more time in early July, before the war changes her life and the entire world very shortly. There will be no more merry trips on the Standart, tennis games on the shore, picnics and cozy talks with officers on the deck. During the war, the deck of the Standart was replaced, and the Grand Duchesses asked if they could have a piece of the old deck as a memento. In his memoirs, a much older Vladimir Molokhovets reminisces about that and hopes that, quote, maybe the small piece of wood from their beloved yacht, connected to so many happy memories from their short lives, was with them in the faraway Siberia, end quote. In her 1917 letter, Olga wrote to her friend Margarita Petrova from Tobolsk on 17 October. In it, she asked, "And Molokhovets, where is he?" Vladimir Molokhovets survived the war and the revolution, was able to escape abroad, and lived the rest of his life in England. It is unclear if he ever married. If you know, please comment below. But he died in Oxford in 1966 at the age of 77. He is buried in Headington Cemetery in Oxford, and I was able to get a photo of his grave. Sadly, there's no tombstone there, just grass.